Hi, today's lesson is lesson 1.6, and we are going to learn to add and subtract with decimals in our number. And you did learn that already in 4th and 5th grade. You've practiced that, but today the new concept is that we might do more than one addition or subtraction problem in a problem. So you might have 3 different numbers to add or subtract. I'm going to teach you how to do that using order of operations. So here is your do now problems. Go ahead and pause your video and do these do now problems. There is also a picture on the Google Classroom, or it is on page 34 of your book if you can read it. Make sure you put these in your notes. Pause now and then we will go over them. Okay, so for the first problem, it gave us these two numbers. It gave us 3 1/3 is the length of our rectangle, and 2 1/3 is the width of our rectangle. And I know that a rectangle has 4 sides. There's 2 lengths and 2 widths. So I'm going to add all those up together. So the way that first thing I do is I look to make sure when I add and subtract fractions, I need to have a common denominator. And so here I do have a common denominator. They're all 3s. And so that'll make those fractions easier to add. We're going to add our whole numbers first. So 3 plus 3 is 6. 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have a whole number of 10, plus I see I have 3/3, and I know 3/3 equals 1 whole, plus I have another third. So that'll give us 11 1/3 for number 3. Okay, the next one, we do not have a common denominator, and we are adding 2 mixed numbers. Remember, a mixed number has a whole number part and a fractional part. So therefore, we have to get a common denominator. And this is going to remind you how to do that in case you forgot. So I need to find the least common multiple between 4 and 5. And if I count by 4s, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and I count by 5s, 5, 10, 20. 20 is my least common multiple. So that will also be my denominator in both of these fractions. So the way that I can make an equivalent or equal fraction here is to ask myself, what did I multiply 4 by to get to 20? That was by 5. So I also have to multiply the top number, my numerator, by 5. So 1 times 5 is 5. For this one, I multiplied 5 times 4 to make 20. So 3 times 4 is 12. Now I have 2 fractions that have a common denominator, so I can add them. So I'll add my whole numbers first. 4 plus 3 is 7. Now I'm going to add just my numerators. Remember, the denominator stays the same. So I have 5 plus 12 is 17. So I have 7 17/20. Okay, next, there was a story problem, and in the story problem it said how much heavier. Those words tell us how much heavier will tell us to subtract. And again, when you add and subtract with fractions, you need to have that common denominator. So I see 8 and 6. And I know that 6 fits into 24 and 8 also fits into 24. So 24 is my least common multiple between 8 and 6. And if I didn't know that, I could use a multiplication chart and I could look at the multiples of 6 and the multiples of 8 and see which one is the smallest that they have in common. So I'm going to rewrite these with that common denominator of 24. Now I multiply 8 times 3 to get to 24, so I have to do the top times 3. And remember, this is new in 6th grade. We use a little dot instead of a multiplication sign. So if you see me putting a little dot there, that just means to multiply. 1 times 3 is 3. Then we have 6 times 4 is 24. 5 times 4 is 20. So now we have a common denominator. We can subtract our whole numbers, which would be 7. Oh, this is a little more confusing. Okay, so let's back up a second. Here, my numerator is smaller than 20. So I can't take 20 away from 3, so I do need to regroup. And what I do is I take one of these whole numbers and I make it into a pi. Remember that when you have the same number in your numerator and your denominator, that's like one whole, right? So we're going to take that 1 pi, break it into 24 pieces, and add that 24 pieces to the 3 pieces. So we have 3 plus 24. That will give us 27. Now I can subtract. So I do my whole numbers first. 8 minus 2 is 6. 27 minus 20 is 7. And then my denominator stays the same. When I add and subtract fractions, my denominator stays the same. All right, then finally here we are looking for prime numbers of 102, 102, and I found my prime numbers by doing a factor tree. And I have 2, 3, 17. Putting those in order for the combination will be 2, 3, comma, 17. Okay, moving on to our chapter. So you're going to want to take out your notes. And you're going to want to pause your video here and copy down this first part. In the first part, I give you a reminder of the order of operations. This is PEMDAS, and the P stands for parentheses. Remember, parentheses look like this. E stands for exponents. Exponent is that little number that's up top that tells you how many base numbers to multiply together. So this one, 2 is our base number. It'd be 2 times 2 would be 4. That's an exponent up top. Then we have multiply or divide. So you can divide first or multiply first. You read it like a sentence in your problem. You go from the right to the left. Wait, from the left to the right. Sorry, you just read it just like a book. From the left to the right. So if you see a division problem first, you do that first. If you see a multiplying problem, you do that first. All right, and then after you've done all your multiplication and division, you'll do your adding and subtracting in whatever order it comes first from left to right, just like you're reading a sentence in a book. All right, there's a rule. When you add and subtract decimals, you need to line them up, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. One of the things I sometimes say is don't forget to button up your decimals. Button them up like on a shirt where they're all lined up in a straight line. Okay, this is my I do. This one you just watch. So sit back and watch what we're going to do here. So I'm going to round these numbers to the nearest whole number, and I see the 4 tells me to round that back to 32. This 8 tells me to round that one up to 5. And then the parentheses around that tell me that's the problem I'm going to do first. So 32 minus 5 is 27. And then I still have to subtract, and this 2, the 0 tells me just to round that back to 2, so 27 minus 2 is 25. So my answer down here should work out to be close to 25. All right, so we're going to solve this to see what our actual answer is. And again, we have PEMDAS, and the P in PEMDAS tells us we have to do whatever's inside parentheses first. So I'm going to go off to the side, and I'm going to use my rule. Line up the decimals. See how they're nice and lined up, one right under the next? And I'm going to subtract those two numbers. So here I don't have a number, so I can add a 0 for a placeholder. 5 minus 0 is 5. I can't take 8 away from 4, so I need to go next door and regroup, bring that group of 10 over and add it to the 4. That gives me 14. So 14 minus 8 is 6. I bring my decimal straight down and button that bottom decimal right up. I can't take 4 away from 1, so I'm going to come over here and regroup. And I get 27 and 65 hundredths. I'm going to put that number that I have from my problem right underneath the parentheses, and I'm done with this part of the problem. So now I'm just going to copy down the rest of the problem, and I have a new problem. So I'm going to write that one down, 27.65, line up my decimals, minus 2 and 6 hundredths. I'm going to regroup. Seven minus 2 is 5. 2, there isn't anything to subtract. So my answer is 25 and 9 hundredths. And my estimate is very close to my answer, so we're right on track. Okay, let's try one together. Go ahead and pause your video to write down this problem. You just need to write this part down right here. Okay, First job is to estimate. So 34 is close to 34.7. 7 tells us to round up. So we're going to make that into 35 minus, and then I have a parentheses here. I have to add in my parentheses, even in my estimate. 12 and 7/100 is close to 12. And 4 and 9/10 is close to 5. Notice that I copied my sign down correctly. I have the same sign, so I have to do the parentheses first, 12 plus 5. Then I write everything down in front of it. See how I just left this part out and I put the answer underneath? That's how we line our work up nice and neat. And then I have 35 minus 7, which will give me 28. So my estimate is going to be 28. Let's try our actual problem. We're going to start with the parentheses. We're going to write down 12 and 7/100, our plus 4 and 9/10. Now look how my tenths spot are lined up, my one spot are lined up, my decimals are buttoned up, but there's no number under this. So you have to add a place holding 0, or you can just pretend the place holding 0 is there. 7 plus 0 is 7. 9 plus 0 is 9. 4 plus 2, 6. Bring down the 1. Okay. Now we're going to take that answer, put it right underneath the parentheses, and write everything else in the same order. Notice I didn't put subtract 34 back here. I put it where it's supposed to be, up in the front. So I lined this up, and then I put the answer right underneath. Everything needs to be nice and lined up. And notice that I'm going over here and over here for my workspaces. So let's write that down. Minus 16 and 97/100. So notice my 97 is going to hang off the end there a little bit. And we are going to subtract that. So I don't have a number here, right? I need to have a place holding 0 there. And I can't take 7 away from that 0, so I'm going to regroup. If you want to pause and try the subtraction on your own, that would be great. This one I can't take away either. I'm going to regroup. You can always watch me after to see if you were correct. And then this one I'm going to regroup. My answer is 17 and 73/100. So go ahead and pause your video. Make sure you have that problem all figured out. Remember, I am trying to keep these videos to 15 minutes so that they upload to YouTube. So there may be times you just have to pause because I'm going too fast. You do the work, and then you watch what I do to see if you're doing it correctly. I want you to pause on this one. I want you to write it down, do the estimate, and find your answer. And we'll come back together in just a minute to check your work. So we do what's inside parentheses first. I'm checking to make sure the 12.5 is smaller than the 13 because I'm using subtraction. So I even check on myself. And then we are going to add 8 and 4/10 plus 12 and 5/10. And my answer should be 20 and 9/10. Okay. If you didn't understand this, it was difficult for you, remember you have the interactive student edition to check and do some problems on there to get some more practice before you do your Think Central. Make sure you upload your notes to our Google Classroom, do your Think Central, show all your thinking, and then upload your thinking so I can look at that too. All right. Well, good luck on that.